Hello, this is Angelica Yingst, and you're listening to Centered, grounded conversations about the metaphysical.
So I've been watching this documentary series called The Deep End. Or the Deep. Have you watched it?
I watched it, yes. Because,
it's about Teal Swan.
When I trained with Catherine, actually, it was funny because Teal Swan Completion Process was one of the books that had been recommended, but it was funny because even like with us, it was kind of like, I mean, like it's good content, but this person is a little iffy.
It's just interesting. It's so interesting because if you guys don't know who Teal Swan is a spiritual guru. Do you want to say guru? Yeah. I don't know, spiritual leader, but she really does talk about mental health and narcissism and trauma, but it's really unclear whether she's creating trauma to heal the trauma.
That's a really good point that you said that. Because that is one of the things about some of the practices.
Yeah, like she says that she uncovers a lot of repressed memories,
which that's
controversial in and of itself.
Yeah, that's controversial. Yeah, well, and I mean, the thing I thought was really interesting with her too was I couldn't quite decipher personally like how I felt about it ultimately, because I was like, not practicing how I would practice, I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, she's not a therapist.
Right, exactly.
I mean, she's not trained, which can be so dangerous.
Right. Like and that was one of the things that even came up in that documentary about like, does she have a mentor? And she said that like she doesn't and everything. And it's like, so she doesn't have any mentor whatsoever, like really guiding her on this, which I mean, I understand in like the high priestess sense of like there's this innate like deep wisdom, but at the same time, like it does feel a little bit like no mentor,
nothing,
nobody you can talk to about like.
Well, and she was also like, you want me to put somebody above me,
right?
Like insinuating like she is above everyone else,
right?
Like that was the part that there was a lot of little things like that, especially when she was talking to her team about like you could just hear that almost like borderline-y, like you're abandoning me, you don't love me enough.
With her team. Oh my God.
With her team.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But then she would be like, you could clearly see that she helps so many people.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing. Like when I watched it, I felt like, okay, if you were to be in her inner circle, I do think that she probably is a cluster B personality disorder of some kind.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like the idea of like it being a cult or something, I felt like was kind of challenging to say that, because it didn't seem like she was actually getting her like the people she was working with into as much. Not to say that she couldn't, like that she wouldn't, potentially have the power to do that, and that it's a little dicey because she clearly has some stuff she still needs to work through. But I don't know. I found it seemed a little far.
I was really I was very mixed about it, because I remember watching her videos like in 2011, 2012, whatever that was. Like, I remember when I discovered them.
YouTube.
My friend Jack, who was one of my closest friends, he loved her. So all we would do is like, I remember I had watched every single video she had out.
Oh, really?
So it was that small, of a content when I started watching her. And I didn't know anything about the Teal tribe. I didn't know anything about the completion process. She didn't really talk about that in the video. She would just talk about like narcissism or whatever. And then to like realize like she was doing some of those videos as a response to stuff happening in the house. Like, I'm going to do this video against so and so was a little weird too. But it was just interesting because I just felt like she has helped. So she's really smart.
Well,
she
yeah,
also
I mean,
seemed on the spectrum to me.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too that like I was considering as I was watching it is like you do have this like woman who is like powerful and she's very, very smart, and she is beautiful too, and like all these things that it's like it does, and she's relatively young and still, and so it's like it does set her up in some kind of ways that I could see why she could easily be a target for people wanting to tear her down. And so like I was considering that as I was watching it too, like this idea of her being criticized in the way she is possibly having misogynistic undertones.
Yeah, I mean, every time she said, like, see how they're lobbying this criticism at me.
Right.
And, and I was like, yeah, I see that. I can see it. But I also could see her using her sexuality.
Yes.
I could see her manipulating people. I could see some of the dodginess of the practice, which was so good on one level.
On one level.
I mean, I actually like her saying, think about death. Like, don't run away from the suicidal ideation. Think about it. What does it look like for you?
Absolutely. I think you're exactly right. Like, I think that that's actually the way to go with it. Like, that idea of like, does she like cause people to commit suicide? That's absurd. Like, and I mean, the thing that I actually found personally kind of upsetting about that is like, like with therapists, for example, I mean, that's like a big topic is like, suicide prevention with clients. And like, there are many therapists out there who have had clients that they've worked with unalive themselves. And so it's like, this idea that one person could be solely responsible for someone unaliving themselves is like really icky and not accurate and not a good thing to be putting out there.
Exactly. I mean, because it becomes, then are you saying that she shouldn't work at all and help like the thousands and thousands of people she's already helped?
Right.
Because someone who was already suicidal when they came to her practice killed themselves or, unalived themselves. That's
exactly. No, exactly. Like, when that type of a decision is made by someone, there's a lot of factors and they go way, way, way back to an earlier time, way before Teal Swan.
Yeah. The part that concerned me was her telling people their medication wasn't working and saying that comes from God, or that's because I'm channeling. That's pure channeling. There was a couple things that she seemed to say that was coming directly from source energy that felt manipulative or, self-seeking, that I kind of felt like, whoa, I hope she sees that, like she might not be as great of a discerner of some of that info. Because I feel like we all do that as tarot readers and psychics and healers. We do channel information, it comes through, but like learning what is your ego and what is, not your amigo is really important, it's a hard one.
And I kind of wish like it would be cool if there was like, more to it or something, like even if it had just been like, okay, we, did this documentary on Teal Swan and realized that there's some areas that she needs to change things a little bit. It's like I would have liked to see the opportunity for her to realize those things and change how she does them, because I mean, as much as like it's definitely not good to do that, like I can also see how someone especially who's relatively young and new and hasn't had a mentor apparently, how they could fall into that. And they're not trying to be evil or anything like that, but it's still dangerous.
Yeah. It kind of it made me think a lot about what we've talked about before with like untrained people doing shadow work, and people doing some of this really deep work and not having any training, like how does that go? One of the things that she did a lot was say like, oh, this is a shamanic practice or something. And like some of the practices she did are just, they're not really shamanic at all.
You're like, that's not.
Yeah. Like what tribe, like what culture is this
exactly.
Yeah. So it was interesting to kind of.
Yeah. Well, and community stuff gets iffy too, I think, when there's like, I mean, to some extent, some amount of dual relationship, even if you live just in like a small area, is relatively unavoidable sometimes in some of these cases. But it's like in some, like when there's these communities, it's like there's like multiple dual relationships upon dual relationships, like intertwining, overlapping, like they're in the same house, and like, like all these different things. And it's like, I feel like that creates a lot of issues with people, even like the thing of like giving people like manipulative kinds of messages, because it's like you're less likely to give someone that you don't know that well a manipulative message. Like you're more likely to do that with someone who you want them to do something that's going to benefit you.
Exactly.
So it's like that kind of messes things up too, I think, a bit for.
Yeah, and there was the whole scene where they kind of confront Juliana's behavior or what she's thinking, like
exactly, like what she's thinking, totally.
That was, to me, that was one of the most terrifying scenes.
Was horrifying. I know,
because I think like that's one of the worst things, when somebody says you don't like me, or you don't. I can tell that you really hate being here. It's just like,
well, and that woman
I'm
was
fine.
Clearly just the most easygoing, like sweet woman.
Like, she was so sweet. And I was like, is this like just a good edit for Juliana or what? But she was like, I felt so bad for her. Like, Teal just saying, you're evil, you hate me, you want to kill me, you think I'm manipulative. And then I was just thinking, narcissists always do this. They always say the thing, like they always accuse you of the thing they're doing.
Right, exactly.
Always.
No, I was like, this is literally just projection. If Juliana needed to know how Teal feels about her, there you go.
Yes, there you go. Yeah. And everyone in the whole group,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that was a terrifying scene. Like, just,
it just felt like such an unsafe place.
Yeah.
And as you're watching it, it's like, oh, that's where I'm like, maybe this is a cult, because Teal's the only one who's safe.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so funny because all these things that I said about like, oh, like I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt or whatever. Like, if you asked me, if you're like, hey, Kyra, I want to go to one of the Teal Swans things, you want to come? I'd be like, fuck no, I don't.
I know, but I was like, I also was thinking, like, if I had found this at the right time in my life and I knew there was something like this, I would have totally gone.
Yeah, well,
I could have easily been one of those people who was volunteering there, working for free. Absolutely. All those people work for free.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I will say, like, the completion process, the book, it's actually decent. Like, I find it very helpful. I've done like similar sorts of activities, sorts of things with clients before, and I really like it. So like but I wouldn't work with her at this point. But you're right. Like, even when I was like 21, I would have been there. I would have been there. Like,
I would have been spirit talking and channeling shit.
Oh my God, yeah.
Listening to her tell me that I hate her. She's so beautiful. I would have been right there with her.
Yeah, I know. We're just sitting there. She's telling us that we hate her, and we're just like, you're so beautiful.
I would have been crying. I mean, that's what would have happened immediately. I would be crying.
Like, no, I'm just admiring you. You're so pretty.
I would just, that would be the thing. It's like, you could tell everyone there is in love with her.
Right. No, that's the...
And I would just be one of those, because she is so stunningly beautiful.
She is. Well, it's
just
like,
mesmerizing
it's
to
her
look at
energy. She just like, they're like there's something about her. Yeah.
But she uses it. I mean, I was even like in that documentary, I was just watching her walk. And there was like someone else walking next to her. And I was just like, it's like, she can't even help it. The way she walks is just like a cat, you know, she's just
I know. Yeah, draws. She is. She's like a cat, like a panther or something. Yeah.
You would almost have to be like, she's Medusa, Lord. She's gonna
exactly
seduce you.
Exactly. That's so funny.
Yeah. All right. I love you. Have a good day.
You too. I'll see you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Centered with me, Angie Yingst. If you'd like to send me a question or comment about this show or any shows, you can send them to Angie@themoonandstone.com.